Well, here's the Trump moves. Trump moves, which is actually Trump's moves. How Trump's moves have reshaped Canada's path. This is an article from Epic Times. I figure we could go through quickly here. The ways in which Trump has influenced Canada even before beginning his second term have been multifaceted. In many cases, a liberal government at odds ideologically with Republicans in general, and Trump in particular, has presented the resulting changes as necessary for Canada to grow economically or assert its sovereignty. Drop in the DST. In other cases, Ottawa has essentially been compelled into overturning policies it was defending only a short while ago. The latest example is decision to abolish the digital service tax on June 29th, 2 days after Trump said he was canceling all trade talks in Canada with Canada. The DST, which applies to foreign and domestic businesses earning online revenues for services offered to Canadians like marketplaces and social media, came into force last year and applied retroactively to 2022. The payment deadline was June 30th of this year. 3 days after the meeting with Trump, Finance Minister Francois Philippe Champagne said the DST was being broached as part of broader discussions on trade, while adding the DST is enforced and going to be applied. On June 29th, Champagne announced the DST would be rescinded by way of legislation. On June 30th, Carney said the pullback was expected as the two parties work on a final trade deal. Then we have this other one, border protection and drug enforcement. Tariffs were imposed after Trump acceded to the White House, leading to Ottawa taking more steps to placate the president in February, including the appointment of a fentanyl czar. Have we ever heard anything from him?
Not since,
Forget his name.
not since the very beginning.
To coordinate the fight against the deadly synthetic opioid as requested by Washington. Canadian officials also started using the terms illegal migration when attempting to show Trump that Canada was taking action on the issue, whereas before Ottawa's de facto official terminology appeared to be irregular migration. It's unlikely that Ottawa would have gone ahead with such moves had a Democrat been in the White House. The Biden administration did not prioritize border enforcement, nor did it widely use tariffs as a tool of foreign policy. And upping defense. One area where Ottawa was pressured before Trump's second term is defense spending. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau arrived at the NATO summit in Washington last year with no stated plan for reaching the military alliance's defense spending guideline of 2% of GDP. On June 9th, Carney committed to meeting the 2% benchmark by the end of March 2026. The announcement came days before Canada hosted world leaders in Alberta for the G7 summit and before the NATO summit in The Hague in late June. There, Canada and its allies agreed to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. We're focused on the outcome, the result, protecting Canadians. We're driven by that, not by, with all due respect, sitting in the NATO building by NATO accountants. The increased spending makes defense one of the largest items in the federal budget. The Parliamentary Budget Officer estimates defense spending will exceed $62 billion in 2025-2026. Health transfers to the provinces are projected at $54.7 billion in the same period. So now the military and the debt payments are higher than and the interest on the debt is higher than the healthcare transfers. Internal trade barriers, economy, and election. Before the House of Commons went on summer break, the Liberal government managed to pass promised tax cuts along with Bill C-5, removing federal barriers to interprovincial trade. The legislation also speeds up development of major projects deemed to be in the national interest. While these have not yet been chosen, some of the propositions on the table could have major economic impact for Canada. It remains to be seen whether they will include new pipelines. But had Trump not been there, the urgency to reduce Canada's dependency on the United States for its oil trade would not likely have become an issue for national debate. Nor would celebrating Canada's national identity have likely returned to the forefront after years of government-promoted messaging that criticized Canada's past. Trudeau started his mandate in 2015 by declaring that Canada was a post-national state with no core identity. Trudeau later said in 2019 that Canada's historic actions around the treatment of Indigenous women and girls amounted to genocide. So,
yeah, it's interesting.